Welcome to the very latest edition of the Premier View Tipperary GAA podcast. Don't forget to give us a follow if you haven't done so already on Twitter. We are at Premier View Pod. On Facebook, our page is the Premier View Podcast, and on Instagram, where we are Premier View Podcast. We have up-to-the-minute news on all things Tip GAA across all our socials, plus the odd giveaway, so don't miss out. If you're a Spotify listener, don't forget to hit follow and also hit the bell so that you never miss a podcast episode.
Hello and welcome to the Preview Podcast episode number 111. Today we're talking about the greatest show on earth. It's up and running. There's been loads of wins, draws and losses. 10-point hammerings and 1-point wins for all involved. I'm looking at a few lads smiling back at me here now, and with Stephen Cronin from Carrick Davin, who had a great win in the intermediate, Sean Smith maybe smiling ruefully at that kind of third of Sars. He was giving up the 2 points versus Kiladangan at the weekend. We've plenty to discuss as we start at senior, but we'll go down through all the grades. It's just, I suppose, to say at the outset, I think it has all the makings now, the 3 championships of a cracking year for Tipperary hurling. It's definitely started with a bang. Sean, we'll go to you first. And Sars is right. It wasn't full jeopardy for you having bagged the mid the week previously, but Kiladangan, might have been hurt by their position in the power rankings, but they'll be back up this week.
Yeah, it was we kind of got to the blocks very quickly. We won the board there within 2 minutes. Goal from Adam Palmer took it very well. Connor second point. Then Kiladangan got, I think, 4 or 5 next scores in a row there. It was, well, one of the main talking points for the game was Roden fell ill that morning there, so he couldn't hog. He wasn't able to play. So he no centre back sweeper / hitting 30 balls a game player. And David Corbett as well lost out with a knock. And Owen Purcell as well, another corner forward who played very well in the mid as well. So we're down 3. So do a bit of rejigging in the back line. But then it's Mara slotted in centre back there. But the space is still behind in around our half back line, forward line. Kiladangan's pop scores over there for sport, like their times. And we just couldn't get a grip hold of the game, to be honest. Billy Seymour, he got 1-7 or 1-6. His goal is exquisite. If anyone watched it back there on Clubber, the ball fell from around 21 or 14 and he just whipped on it, and however he managed to control it into the top corner. And Sean Hayes then scored their second goal just before half time. We're kind of 3 down. I looked at the scoreboard, we're 3 points down. I said, grand, we're going to half time regroup, come up with a plan. But Sean Hayes with other ideas, and he's stuck in back and net. We're down 6 points in a half time. It was 192-12 at half time, and we 6 points down. We'd a lot to do in the second half. But Kiladangan let us do it. Paul Flynn again, very good, 6-7 points from play. Ty Gallagher got 4 from play. Sean Hayes got the goal. Joe Gallagher even got 2 points. So they raised scores and they hit a heap wide as well. They had 21 wide, I think, to be honest. So for ourselves, like Aidan McCormack kind of kept scoreboard ticking over 1-8. Billy got 3 points and Darcy Second got 3 points as well. But Kiladangan looked solid. James Peaty in the back line looked very good now, to be fair. All over the field, they just looked a team that were kind of out to put on a marker, especially after the North. But disappointing from us. But again, we're hopefully have a better team going forward with Rowan and DC and Owen Purcell who lies back as well. So
yeah, I suppose that's one of the most competitive groups on paper. I suppose we can't talk about any one game in too much depth here tonight. So apologies to any supporters. But I suppose that was one of the more the Sars results definitely. You'd sit up and take notice. The other game in that, I don't know whether it's a good thing from a Sars perspective or a bad thing that there was no winner in this game, Barcelona and Clonalty, which was played in very difficult conditions on Sunday midday, and the rain coming in fairly low scoring. I don't think any team got kind of more than a point or two ahead at any one stage. Eddie Ryan with a last minute free or last puck of the game.
Actually, and it's always going to be given, to be honest. One day ones where it's a game of frees, actually. I think they caught Burke at 12. Eddie Ryan got about 8. Final score was 113-16. So overall, it was a scrappy game. But conditions gave to that, slipping lads' hands on backs, yourselves. But Cannoli were a better team, I think. To be honest, they probably deserved their win. But when all the point in the game around them rounds, free in is always going to come. Jack Ryan for Cannoli is very good now. His size of him alone, he scored 3 points, but his striking was class. The goal was James Vanny Dan McCormack set it up, laid it off James Vanny, and he just kept going through the middle and stuck in the net. But other than that, like, Spurs see or be happy to draw, but can only be disappointed with that, especially when they kind of were sitting there after watching Sars get kind of going over by Kiladangan there, and that score difference of kilos. So if one of them could have got a win there, would have been a huge boost. But the next day out now, we're playing Canolty, and that's massive, to be honest. But we both still have lifeline division and on a preliminary quarter final, but you don't want to ground that route, to be honest.
And Barcelona next time out, then I suppose you've almost a must-win game there again. Yeah. We've been here before, Barcelona in the second round, like, you know, so it's they don't do things the easy way.
No, they don't. No, worse, like this group, it's, I don't know what way it's going to finish. Like 14 could come out of it. Like, you know, we could be third or fourth. Claude could be down the way, and then
Kiladangan win against Kiladangan. That's a top game the next day. Like, there'll be a few games, I think, with more riding on them than that.
No, but overall, like, Canol will be disappointed, heard very well, but, you know, the freeze kind of just were a killer in the game. You know, again, never got fun, but conditions didn't let it either, so.
Absolutely. And as I suppose the senior championship started with a bang, the current county champions, Kiladangan, Friday night, not quite dethroned, but a major dent in their title defence by Tumavara. Some of you fancy, you know, think Tumavara a bit of a common team. I actually, you know, I'll hold my hands up here. Like, I didn't see it coming. I you know, fancy kind of Kiladangan there, like, you know, and Enda, I suppose, will be the contributing. He was quietly confident, at least, to Tumavara. I think he thinks they're building a very nice team there, and they really showed up on Friday night.
Yeah, I suppose massive result for Tumavara. Actually, look, we all know the history they have. We grew up on them, but a real statement from him too. And, you know, I suppose there'll be a lot of focus on Kiladangan after winning the county last year. Can they back it up? Can they, you know, assert a bit of dominance in Tipperary hurling? Look, there's only the first round. They won't panic after that. After all, they are the county champions. But yeah, it is a huge result for Tumavara, and that sets them up big time now going forward. And a little bit of a setback for Kiladangan because, you know, lost in the next round and they're out, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it was Jack Delaney that really came out of that, people raving about that match with himself, kind of did a lot of the damage for Toom as well. So it might be one that's on Liam Carl's radar.
Yeah, and just he was, I think, got 2-4 Jack Laney. Darren McCarthy got 1-3, so that was 7 scoring from the forwards there. Like, but Kiladangan at this point, Niall Mara went off there just around half time, and he was kind of getting back into the game in the first half. So him going off an injury, not what you want to see. But then Craig Morgan came on from coming from injury. He came on the second half. So, but again, he wasn't 100% either. But Kiladangan can't seem to get their full fielding on the field at the moment with injuries and stuff. You know, so. Who else went off injured? I think Willie Cleary was injured as well, the free taker as well. So they kind of got unlucky at times, but Toom were the better team. I was flicking over back between that game and McCarthy game there in Clover, but that kind of game was filtered out kind of not. It wasn't that close to the one.
Exactly, and I suppose we were talking the last day about maybe a bit of a chasm between the top end of the Oreen and the bottom end of the Dan Breen, but, you know, Ross Gray, last year's champions in the Oreen, have maybe kind of threw a spanner in the works there with a hard-fought another draw against Mike Harkey.
Yeah, good first round. Like, you know, a draw, they'll take that. Like, you know, I suppose we probably could have been a little bit harsh on them with talking about the gap when, after all, they were playing Kiladangan, you know, which would have been the top end of Dan Breen. So I suppose to be a bit fair, judging them on the first round of the championship, they got the result. They got the draw against Mike Harkey Boris, and you know, that'll give them great confidence going into the next round of games, you know, because it's hard, you know, as you come up, you have to get off to a good start, because at that level, you know, if you don't get off to a good start, you'll be devoured. And look, it wasn't the win that could have really gave huge confidence, but they weren't beaten either, so they'll take great heart from that.
Yeah, it was, when you kind of look back, I do say there, Stephen, at Kiladangan, what it done to us. And, like, you know, we're kind of saying, geez, Ross Gray got going over north by Kiladangan, but sure, we got going over by Sunday by him as well. So, Ross Gray deserved the draw, probably. McCarthy wide in the first half probably killed them, to be honest. They were a lot of wides. And then Ross Gray and Evan Fitzpatrick and Alan Tynan got 4 points, and Tinkyne got 3. But Tynan was held well, to be fair. Owen Hayes done a good enough job on him, and for McCarthy. Kieran Morris is always solid in the frees, got 8 or 9 frees, 2 or 3 from play as well, but it was a game where the more McDonagh kind of thinking McCarrick going to pull away, but just couldn't get the clinical few scores to win it. And Ross Gray, to be honest, scored a few cracking scores there. Connor Sheedy got one there from wing back as well at one point, second half as well, and deserved a draw. Like that's massive for him in that group, especially with kind of Toom getting the win. Like Kiladangan now may missing a few for next day, as we said. So McCarrick, Ross Gray won't fear either of them.
Exactly, but from a Toom perspective, you have to back it up now with a win, going top the group, get your quarter final, and no messing around in the preliminary quarters. I suppose another apology from me coming up, and Stephen a bit as well with Mullen O'Hone. They were down. We had them pegged for relegation dogfight, but and then come with the man Mikey O'Shea got a double against JK Brackens. I think that puts them top of the group on score difference as well. After I think they won. Just get up the score here.
They won by 7, yeah.
They won by 7, and Drum beat Nina by 2. So that's Mullen O'Hone. That's a massive win for them. And
huge!
They just keep on proving us wrong here.
Yeah, it's the work rate, and they never say die attitude. It's phenomenal. It's always been there. I'm watching the game there. I'm only finished watching it there recently. Like the support play on the defensive side of the ball is unreal. They bring back a lot of players. They crowd out the back line. They make it so difficult for JK Brackens to put together a couple of moves to break down. JK Brackens might take the wrong option, or they choose a wide, or if Mullen O'Hone turned over the ball, it's a diagonal ball over to Mikey O'Shea, and he caused havoc up there. It was just look. It has to be said that JK Brackens were very poor as well. I thought they're very they're coming in as the mid champions from last year. They got the breakthrough. They got a great mid championship win last year. I thought they'd be better, but they made so many poor decisions. Now, that being said, it came from the pressure Mullen O'Hone put on him. Any free, I don't know if he missed any, but any free Conor Whelan took from distance could have been 100 yards, and he was putting them over the bar. He had a great game for Mullen O'Hone, but their backs were brilliant. They swarmed everything. Didn't give JK Brackens, they didn't give him a second on the ball, and then the sending off then really changed, really hurt JK. The first sending off, he got caught, and hands up, he owes his boys an apology.
Yeah, and I suppose what they looked again, I didn't see this one, but they looked very reliant, I suppose, from Andrew Ormond from play again, and then player rudder for freeze bar. That there wasn't a whole pile of scoring done for Brackens.
No, and to be honest, they were poor in the freeze. Like Linda Fairbrother was coming out 100 yards to take freeze. They were taking freeze and taking shots from 100 yards with the wind, and it didn't make sense. Leave a back, hit them, find space, because when you're hitting freeze from 100 yards, even with there's a wind there, you need to be on point, because when one or two of them start going wide, then the doubt creeps in then, and every shot you take becomes more important than the last one. And they've hit some really poor wides now that they'd be very disappointed with.
Yeah, that puts Brackens in a funny position, I suppose, with Nina and Drum in that group. They could well kind of see themselves now kind of finishing bottom in that and having a relegation semi-final to face, just like that. As you said, a club that's definitely been on an upward curve over the last number of years, back the mid title last year. But I suppose it shows how, there's no place to hide in these championships. We don't want to be drawing too many conclusions. I suppose at the same time, after one game, there'll be plenty more surprises and shocks in round 2. But just on that Drum game, I suppose Nina, look, they had a hard 1-North final the week before, so I was expecting Drum to get the better of them here. Just on the WhatsApp there today, some of you have Drum kind of shooting up the power rankings as well, the much maligned power rankings, I suppose, when you look at some of the teams before. So Drum, would you say that they hit a fine score? Does that make them kind of back being mentioned as contenders?
Yeah, they were played very well now. Kind of expecting to come firing out after kind of disappointing game in the meet against Lockmore where they never got going. They said the lower players capable of performing, they kind of did it up, like Tommy Nolan there got an excellent goal, 2 scores. Shane McCallan, even his goal is well worked. If anyone get to watch it back, as a short free hit on the 21 across the box to another Drum lad. Shane made the run back to 14, ball came across. it's something from the training ground. Like they'll never get it again because it's been done. But it worked. Like in the end, it was the winning goal. When they win by 2 points, like Nina fought late, Tommy Heffron got a goal, and then a chance of another goal after that. Like they could have actually robbed it. To be honest, I think it would have been like Drum were the better team. Nina missing Jake in the forwards. I know, it's a kind of marquee forward, but like he's getting you 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points a game when the ball goes into his sticks as well. So I'll have to try and work and see can they build on the forward. But Neil will still take confidence out of it. I'll only lose my 2 points and miss the marquee man, but Drum look good.
Yeah,
now.
and I suppose there's a few different kind of. I think that Jake needs a bit of surgery there on the jaw or whatnot. Look, that's 100% not confirmed. So he might be out for a few weeks for him, which would be a massive loss.
Yeah, then if they can get like with Nina, if they can just get out of this group, or not get out in any Primary, but even if they do kind of can get another 2 results and come through, they have the Primary to fall back on, and like that's 6, 7 weeks away, and like it's ridiculous to get something done. They're kind of saying around that time frame, aren't they? Maybe.
Yeah, and look, the Bracken's up next in that group, so it's Drum versus Mullinahone, and the 2 winners facing off. So
yeah,
look, I suppose you have to mind the back door as well. Nina perspective beat Brackens and look after that. Look after that.
Yeah, exactly. Like then they can look at that and just kind of get into knockout stages, get Jake back. But they don't want to go out now and be playing Brackens and end up just winning by a couple of scores. No, they want to have a performance they're trying to kind of get back into. So we had them like fishing North, what they done in the North, and with the North being so strong by seeing Kiladangan and them instead in the weekend, it's different kind of competition. But
yeah, and look, I don't have the stats on it, but I was just looking at a few of the results from the teams that maybe won or played in divisional finals that last weekend. Probably another one we'll come to in a minute would be Upper Church, but a few of them kind of maybe did surprisingly struggle a bit. Kilnod probably had a sluggish first half versus Portroe. You see Swan then with a draw versus Tracy's again. Like, so, we talk about 6-7 day turnaround in many cases, so it does have an impact, especially when you're either going from a high or low or of a divisional loss. The West have it all sorted. They have their 2-week break for County. They have it all set up.
Yeah, it makes a big difference, like the short, because no matter what, any divisional final, it takes a bit out of you mentally. Like, everyone's able to play every week, but certain games you have to get to a certain level mentally, and like they could be a little bit of a slow start the following week if it's a short turnaround. Plus, look, after divisional final, maybe lads might have went out for a few beers, probably not the best preparation, but I suppose when you win a divisional final, you deserve a few beers as well.
Even look, Sars, who, with all respect, Sean, the mids wouldn't mean as much to you as a win for Upper Church would be, like, but there was probably the Sars were a bit off coloured again the following weekend, then like just against Kiladangan. Yeah,
you're kind of going a good weeks in a row there, weekends, like, kind of it's a recovery session there on the week, and then you're kind of preparing for the game the weekend. So it was quick, rapid fire, to be honest, and like lads picking up niggles and stuff, and then change of personnel, and lads are moving positions well the whole time. But do say the division's been run off, like that was kind of something that fell back. That they were great, haven't played off in that, but as it does show by the results the weekend, that teams that were in divisional finals and got to the business end of them came out worse in results, like compared to Drum, who had 3 or 4 weeks prep there. Like,
exactly, maybe it's a risk you take, but if you got your win in the first round championship, it might have been worth it having the couple of weeks extra prep. Before we leave Dan Breen, there's one more group to cover. There's definitely a half surprise, I suppose, with Upper Church again. Aforementioned, they're losing to Holy Cross. I kind of half fancied Holy Cross in this as a club with a very good underage pedigree coming. The kind of names like that are they're starting to kind of pepper that Holy Cross panel from the under-19 setup last year, and then I think you'll see more of them in the next. So I wasn't that surprised with this result, but it's an important one for Holy Cross.
Yeah, they went down badly against us in the mid, but that wasn't the best performance, honestly. Like, they've regrouped since that. They had a few weeks to recover. Unlike Upshur had to go to the wire against us, and we nicked it in the end. Like, that was a hard game, bad conditions. That was only a week earlier. So as you say, division there, Upshur going into this, then probably like the Upshur don't want to go in his favourites either. They're probably strong favourites, but Holy Cross by all accounts will hurl them there, and they pulled away in the end.
Yeah, so the other game in that group then, Lockmore, a very high scoring affair, this one against Temple Derry. The Housewives' Choice, Lockmore, as good as ever.
Yeah, that's Lockmore
From
scores.
Templederry, mind, especially in the first half.
I saw the Tipperary score first. I was like,
Yeah.
geez, they must have came very close. And then I was like, geez, conceded 426 Lockmore scored to 418 Tipperary. Absolute shootout. Tipperary do that, like. I said here
Exactly, and that's, and I think was at this one as well, and he said, like, the Templederry forwards are a match for anyone. It's just the backs probably.
The same we played them both last year, and that, like, both teams went for head of leather, but they'll concede more and more against the kind of better teams, like, but like that will give them, like, other teams looking at that, like Holy Cross and Ulsters now seeing that Templary can get that against the Lockmore team. We give them confidence. We just need to tighten up the back, and it's for kind of a few years we're at that, we're conceding high scores, but someday they'll come where they'll outscore some. They could score 530,
Exactly, and you saw it in the arena a couple of years ago. They were shooting the lights out. But look, if you're Templederry now, right, Lockmore was always going to be maybe like a level above, but like you've two games now versus Holy Cross and Upperchurch, and I think you're rubbing your hands together after a bit of a performance against Lockmore now. That they might fancy themselves and causing another shock there in one of those, if you even call it a shock.
Yeah, that group is wide open. Like outside Lockmore, say if they top it and go on and win it, like the other three teams, any of them come second finals, I think. And depends on the day, kind of. Upperchurch going to have 2 weeks now to a group that will help them big time. Holy Cross probably would love to play a game next week. The opposite. So they're on the form. So we'll see in 2 weeks' time.
Exactly, and as I said, keep an eye on the socials for what the dates and details. I think most of those games are going to be out tonight, so we're recording on Monday, so they might have kind of fixture details for those, which is not the bank holiday weekend, but the weekend after the football's on this weekend, right? I suppose if the Tipp Championships are the greatest show on earth, the diamond in the crown, the jewel in the crown is the Hurling Championship in this, battle royale of 16 teams, and I suppose on any given day they can all beat each other and that, and I suppose it's the greatest sandwich in between intermediate and senior, and it's a bit of a cracker. I was out at the Ballina and Mary's game to kick things off on the Friday. Mary's just got on top late on. Great game, very big crowd there. So great for Ballina. Like the two Powers did some score, and Matthew Power, Owen Power for Mary's. Then Sean Kennedy from frees, Ross Peters from play was excellent in the backs. In the backs, James Morris, who was with the under 20s this year, was exceptional. Really kind of thundered into the game as it went on. It's great for Mary's to get the win there, and what was a bit of a banana skin. We're behind for a lot of that game. The other game then, I suppose, on Sunday evening, Cashel and Mine was a tempestuous affair. It's I suppose it was bordering, wouldn't be a derby, I suppose, but they'd be kind of close enough to each other. Cashel down to 12 men for I think the last 20 minutes, got the job done by 3 points in the end. Mine didn't make use of that ball, Stephen.
No, and I don't think the rivalry, or if you could call it, were the result of the 3 red cards either. 3 red cards were absolutely just stupidity. Look, I suppose it's easy commentate on the match, especially when you're not involved. But what Mine did in the second half, especially with 2 extra men, it just beggars belief. Like, the 2 extra men, and they just lump ball down on top of the Cashel backline. And even when Cashel broke up, then they were able to find a free man. Like, you've 2 extra men, yet there's still free Cashel men all over the field. It was extremely poor, and yeah, like Cashel will be under pressure now come the next game. They're missing three players now, three good hurlers. Like, I don't want to go too hard on them, but you're stamping down on a fella. Like, you deserve everything that comes with the red card. You can't be doing that in a hurling match. Like, that's whatever about it. You're getting into a little jostle. Let's say the Brackens lad got caught doing to his man what his man did to him 5 minutes previous. He just got caught, a little bit of junting. But you're stamping down on a man. I think you're going a bit too far there. I didn't see the other instance, but if you're getting 1 red card, you try and be on your best behaviour for the rest of the game, but to get 2 more, it's absolutely
exactly.
A terrible look for
Cashel. If
Cashel.
50-50 on the next one after getting 1 red card, it's probably
Yeah,
you get away with it. So
they're going to have an old chat in the club, within the club. Like, this is terrible carry on. But then such a poor performance from Wayne Temple too, he might paper over the cracks that's going on in Cashel, because look, lads, no matter how bad mine played, for Cashel to come out with a win there was fantastic. But it is the
Exactly.
talking point of the weekend, I think, was shocking red cards.
We were tossing up, what that should do to Cashel again on the power rankings, and I think we have them up a couple of places, because it could like getting over the line in that, again with the 12 men, it's a big win for them against the adversity and all that, and as you said, but they have to learn from it and the discipline.
Yeah, that's it. Like, and I there's something that needs to be spoken about, because it's not just an LA challenge, or it's not just a two lads going at it at the end of a fiery game. Like, they're poor red cards, really, really poor red cards, and that's a lack of care. That's what it is. It's just, I don't care, and it's been selfish, if you ask me. And they're down 3 big players the next day. They might have got them the win against Mine Temple too. Mine will be thinking, Garrod O'Connor's back the next day, that they'll be able to give a right.
Exactly.
Sometimes
Mary's Cashel the next day, so you'd fancy the winner of that to go on and win the group.
Yeah.
Again, we talk about the quarterfinals straight through. You have the highway to the playoffs. So,
but still on that, like, then I don't understand why mine were giving Cashel a puck out. I looked at a few clips of it. Like, they're giving the puck out too, round hit anyone. So he's finding loose men, and they had less men on the field. I don't know how. Like,
yeah, it was brutal. Like, the mine management have to have a long, hard chat amongst themselves about what messages they were giving out to the field. Like, because Cashel had 3 men, even though they were down 2 men.
That's where, I find it, like, push up on it.
Didn't make sense. Yeah, mark every single man, and then leave your own 2 men free and sort them out. And another thing, just they made the pitch so small. Mine made the pitch so small. Like, you've 2 extra men.
Yeah, you were saying.
Make that pitch as big as possible.
Build
Get them into one-on-one hurling, which are extra man then to come and support you.
Like the Connor Bow there, like, give him the ball in space, like, even that.
Yeah.
So, like, they didn't, like, he should have been in the corner on his own, literally in the far field nearly for all the world.
Exactly.
But,
right, lads, we'll have to move on. Keep it rolling. I suppose another mini shock. Aero just down from Dan Breen. Sarsfield's B, or second team. Big win for Sarsfield, Sean. Again, team that might have been in the lower quartile of the power rankings, maybe not as strong as other years. Bad mid defeat, and he came up trumps in style.
Yeah, it was not Warrigan's game, but knew we'd have it all to do. But geez, them lad, they dug in the second half. It kind of reminded me of our intermediate team that won the county final a few years ago. Kind of never say die. Like, the attitude, young lads. They're over on top in the first half. Fox was hitting ball in the back line, and we pushed Harry Fitzgibbon up to mark him, and he just stood in him. And Harry actually got a goal at the start of the second half off him, and Jack Lanigan got the other goal. And from there, we just kind of kept plucking away. To be honest, we're always 4 up then the second half, but great win. Mooney made an unreal save as well, and goals another time as well. So, like, we could have been further ahead, but by God, we'll take that winning Knote. There's some farmers and some of our young lads, like, like Salim McCormack, Jack Lanigan, Robbie Stapleton, and then the veterans. And in the backs, like David Maher, who Dan Breen medals there, was full back. He just solid, like, so good old mix, but unreal to get the win, to be honest, against their Ogan. Like, that's great for that kind of group of lads there coming on, like, so.
Absolutely.
Air Ogan be very disappointed. They wonder, like, that was the draw they kind of want to first maybe to play our second team, and especially not maybe having a full contingent with a few lads that weren't on. Michael, I think, is away as well, so we 1 or 2 lads maybe that could have been honest. So, but David disappointed usually that.
Absolutely. And then the other game, that one, Carrick Swan, I think they were 5 up against Tracy's.
Yeah,
coming down the stretch again, maybe a bit of fatigue from the South final.
That's same thing, division. Just maybe just a bit of energy at the end. Like, that's disappointing for Swans. Like, I would have found them to win that. I think a few I'd have been last man standing. That GS was one on Prem View as well. I say I'm knocked out of all now this stage, to be honest.
A real game of 2 halves. They were totally dominant in the first half. Like, bar freeze, which was probably the worrying aspect for the Swan. They left Sean Tracy's in the game with freeze. I know they were 5 points up again, but it was just a worrying trait of the game, that the silly freeze. and you're going in 5 points up. I think they possibly could have had the win as well, and then in the second half, you know, and again that puck out is putting all the pressure down on the Sean Tracy full back, but the constant silly freeze. You know, I don't have the stats, but I'd like to see the stats for Sean Tracy's 116. I think they score. I'd say I'd be very surprised if they scored more than 6 points from play. And they got the goal, you know, but like in terrible conditions as well. You know, lads shooting under pressure is difficult enough, but if you're going to give them a free shot at goal, place ball, you know, you're handing them the initiative, and giving away frees give teams hope. Like, you know, Gavin and Eric dominated the middle of the park for so long. They were on so much ball. It just didn't look like Sean Tracy's were going to get within an ass's roar of them in the second half, but they kept battling, and they got a huge slice of luck as well at half time when one of their lads should have been red carded just as the halftime whistle went. He gave a nice little dig into the back of one of the Swan players, and the referee saw it, called him, consulted his linesman, and then gave a yellow card. And you know, that kind of thing, I suppose, could have took their mind off the halftime, could have took the focus off the second half a little bit, but they should have been up a man going into the second half. And look, that didn't cost them the game. I think the constant freeze, you know, constant freeze.
They were finishing their game strongly. You know, the semi-final, the South in the final as well, where they nearly caught Kiladangan. So yeah, again, maybe it's just a bit of fatigue. Maybe, as you said, the concentration went. And
Tracy's even, I was kind of following in line of scores. They even missed a lot of frees in the second half as well to even win the game. So Swans were gifting them, you know, frees there, galore in the second half. Like, you know, so Swans were probably, in the end, getting a draw, they could have been beaten.
Yeah, they could have been beat. I think Tracy might have had the last 2 wides, maybe, or they missed, or when they were a point up, or when they were a point down, I think they missed 2 frees. Then they got their score, you know. So look, I suppose at the death they'd be happy to get out of there with the draw, but overall in the game, you know, the Swans should have saw that out with 20 minutes left.
Yeah, moving on then to Group 3, All North Affair, Burgess 2-point win over Silvermines. I think this one was on Clubber as well. I didn't see any of it.
I didn't get around to this one now myself either, so I'm not going to be able to give much comment on it.
16 in, so I didn't get 17 in then, Steve.
Exactly. That's your Monday night view. That's your Monday night view and sorted. So after this, and again another draw Friday night, Clonakilty Newport. This group again, it leaves after one game wide open. You'd say after Burgess on top, coming off a North final loss. Sit on 2, Clonakilty Newport 1. You know, you'd be slow enough in calling this still who's going through and who's going into relegation.
Yeah, all them teams in our day could do it. Like, you know, that's the thing about this grade. Like, both Clonakilty and Newport both disappointed with the draw. Like, both of them could have won the game by all accounts. But like, then I don't know how we're going to call it. This group, the divisional games, probably took it to maybe some of them coming into it then.
Yeah, and I suppose performance of the week, Kiladangan maybe are the biggest win. Certainly, we'd Portrush down the bottom of the power rankings based on they were missing a few lads, AJ Willis and Rowan Mulrooney, 2 of their kind of sharpshooters there. I think Kevin O'Halloran had to go off in this one. It would be the joint captain as well. So nothing's going right for Portrush at the moment.
Tough old day for them, and Kiladangan seem to be really laying down a marker this year. You know, Declan fans after coming in there, they seem to be really relishing the physical battle too. And look, if we're honest, they've been floating around the last couple of years. You know, they've a lot of very good players there. They were losing games last year. We all expected them to win, so they're really going at it this year. You know, they have the divisional championship win under their belt, so the preliminary quarterfinals guaranteed, and they're off to a good start here. They'll want to qualify out of the group by winning all the games too, you know, bring that form into it. So, you know, like there's the confidence is really high in Kiladangan, and unfortunately for Portrush, that's who they met in the first round, and it wasn't a good day for them.
And Kiladangan on that, they're one of the teams actually have brought their form the whole way through the league division and onto the county. You know, one of the few teams actually have done it, so consistently form, but can they keep it going knockout stages? Like last year, I saw it against those we went in golden in the knockouts. No, they should have probably gone in favours in that. But no, this year they seem a bit more tuned in, to be honest. And they
Yeah,
need to be up.
absolutely. And I suppose
Yeah,
the last game there, I suppose bit of a I won't say daylight robbery here, but bit of a Gartner who were well in control against Lara for long periods there. Lara 2 late goals, kind of snatch victory from the jaws of defeat.
Yeah, great win for him. As another team that's only up from last year, and Gortnahoe then were pipped in the Seamus Arene final last year. So Lara will be happy with that. But look, Lara did the same thing last week in the divisional final. So Gortnahoe should have had they should have been a little bit more prepared for Lara going to the well in the last few minutes. So they'll be disappointed they had conceded a couple of goals there towards the end.
Three of these teams do have the luxury of the preliminary quarter final in the bag already. So, it's just a massive advantage there now. I think is Kiladangan and Lara next game. Isn't it? That'll
two
probably
winners,
decide who tops the group there. So it's probably the tide around at this grade as well.
and on that game there, Laura's goal, geez, Dara Guinan, he gone to our social media there, Parent View podcast there on Twitter, you see the video from club, like, and Jesus, he flicked over two lads' heads, but geez, well, two lads' heads, but lads doing that should be decked, take him out, but some moving and go from, and Laura kind of a smash and grab, but all year we've kind of been touting them, but Gortnahoe, like, are going to thereabouts, like, they're just dogged team as well. No, they'll be sickened with that way to lose as well, to be honest.
Absolutely right. As we'd love to talk about these games in more detail, but now we have to move on, I suppose, to the intermediate, the first game that's kind of coming up here. I'm not going to ask Stephen your opinion on that, but Kiladangan and Arravale Rovers, a clean sheet for Stephen, and am I right in saying that in the Davin
clean
score?
sheet, yeah.
And then what, you score 5 goals?
14 to 16 points,
16, yes,
and so if Mr. Carl is listening, I have a car and I will drive if needed. But look, it's good to get off to a good start. We were confident going into it. We'd I think with a clean bill of health. We've played Arravale the last few years, so we kind of both teams, I suppose, are familiar with each other. Thankfully, we were coming out on top, so it probably made a little bit of a difference there when you're a little bit on top from our team in the previous results. But yeah, look, we had a strong start with Billy Roach, scored a cracker early on in the game, got the ball out on the left hand side, took on two men, beat them. The full back was coming to clean him out. Billy made a little jink right, all without catching the ball, might I add. And then as he went left, the full back went left with him, and Billy then stepped back in, flicked the ball over his head, similar to the Lara goal, and absolutely buried it, and gave us confidence to start. But in fairness, Arravale, they clawed their way back into it, and the bit of a breeze there with them. They worked the ball down the field very well, and went in at half time a point up actually, and probably should have been more, bar a last ditch heroic block from Adam Foran that was probably going to be a certain goal. He was 8 yards out. If he didn't beat the keeper, he was hitting the keeper straight on. So, but we came out in the second half, and just fairness to the boys up top, they were ravenous. They ran at him at every opportunity, and we I think it was 3. What did we score? 3-8 or something in the second half. And we were comfortable enough in the second half. But look, we got off to a good start, and that'll give the boys huge confidence going into the next round.
Absolutely. The other game in that game, that was a draw, wasn't it? Drummond Inch and
that was a draw. Yeah.
Again, yeah. So tight in that group. You have Drum next, isn't it?
We've Drum next week, yeah, and Knockville and Arravale then. So
Drum be disappointed to lose that. They're up by 5 or 6 points late in the second half, so they'll be disappointed to let that slip against Knockville there. So with the score level, Drum actually got scored level in next time as well at the end of injury time. So they got the leveler after being well ahead in the second half.
Exactly. So Group 2 in this, Cap White are flying it. They play Ballingarry in the next round. So Cap White West champions. I think they beat Golden by 3 in the end, or 3 or 4 in the end, but they were 6 or 7 up. Golden got a late goal. Might have flattered them a bit. Mike is still playing down Kappa White's chances there, saying they're not a top 8 or 9 team, but it's like they're definitely kind of motoring well now. Ballingarry, very good win over Kiladangan B.
Yeah, that Ballingarry now they'll put the disappointment of the South Championship. They were
And
flashed.
Dylan Walsh flying it in that one by all accounts.
Yeah, and they look. Ballingarry would have told you from the get go their focus is on the county championship, and if they brought us out along the way, they would have been happy. But they're off to a good start. Another win sees them into the knockout stages, and they can refocus again. So I'd expect Ballingarry to come out of the group with Kappa White. I think when you lose the first round, it puts an awful pressure on you. When it is going to be a hard road back now especially for Kiladangan. It's been their second team, and I know they're only down from Premier Intermediate last year. But when you're coming down, the confidence is gone, as we see with Anacarty. And if you lose your first round, it'll take some recovery for them. But Ballingarry will be happy with their first round performance anyway.
And just on that goal and short, the 1-9 to score, Jack Lima got 8 points. So, when you're scoring 8 points, or you're 1-9, compared to Cap had 3 or 4 different scores, they really barred there, McCarthy and David Buckley. So, the next round, as you say there, fancy Cap and Ballingarry. Hard games the cause, but still, going on form and stuff, you'd fancy them too for us to win the next day.
Yeah.
Apart from Ballingarry, sorry. You fancy them to come out of the group, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. But who'll come out on top now will be another question. That's another, I suppose, maybe the game of the round in the intermediate next time out.
Yeah.
You keep an eye on that. I suppose Group 3, arguably the group of death. Borland, Kilsheelan, Moneygall, and Shannon Rovers. Borland beat Kilsheelan by a solid 3 point, I think, at the weekend.
Yeah.
Steve, saw a bit of this.
Just on the reports, a fantastic game. Seemingly, I don't think any of the three teams that won the divisions are going to let up, and Barry had to mention Barry Kehoe for Kilsheelan. By all accounts, another fantastic game this weekend, and when really needed to win puckouts, especially, and he's not a big man now. Bear in mind, he came from the corner forward out to the half forward line, and really was an unreal outlet for Kilsheelan. So. Barry is having a great season, and they'll be looking to him a lot more as well going forward. But Borland, I suppose, we played him in the county league. Movement is fantastic. They're looking for the fast ball, diagonal ball. The puckouts are quick, so they'll be happy with laying down a mark or two. Who will many see as probably the two favourites, two of the favourites anyway, going into the county series. And they'll want to have laid down a marker in that first round. I think we spoke about it there last week that none of these teams were going to be shadow boxing, and it shows at the weekend.
Yeah, probably Kilsheelan gave Borland enough there. I thought it wouldn't be that close either the game, but Moneygall, as we picked them on in the kind of early favourites, they went out and blitzed on by all accounts against Shannon, so they'll be confident that win.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the Group 4 then we Ballybacon, Skahina Rinky, Barsakane and Upper Church. So it was all South of Fair and Clonmel on Friday night. 14 points to 7, I think it was, for Skaheen. So a comfortable win over Ballybacon, who you'd have to, fear for a bit, I suppose, even at this stage. Now they play Upper Church next time out. Barsakane had a very comfortable win versus Upper Church. But you'd be fearing not only that the loser of that game goes into the relegation, but they might actually be the one that drops.
Yeah, Ballybacon now been treading water for I suppose along with ourselves as well. They've been treading water for a long time, and they were probably favourites to go down the last couple of years, but managed to get the win somewhere. But I'm not too sure of the conditions. But 7 points in any game of hurling is, it's a hammering. No matter what the other team scored, it's extremely, that's a worrying sign. The over-reliance on Brendan Cummins pucking the ball down to the opposition 21 was really on show, because if the conditions are poor, the ball is probably not travelling that far. Therefore, you're not creating opportunities, and 7 points that's a poor return now. And you know, you can have off days where it's only 7 points, but they'll really need a big response the next day. And you'd be thinking, you'd be fearful for them that, you know, their days at intermediate level could be numbered.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Boris Kane, as we said, are in a poor position here. Right, that's a good review of the action. Plenty more to come. Two rounds. I was up at the big ball yesterday. Dublin Kerry, great colour up there. Dubs by a very narrow margin. Something different. So, Jesus, All Ireland final day. There's nothing else like it. Hurling or football.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It probably wasn't the most free-flowing game to watch on telly, but the battles, you know, the intensity was something to behold. And none of this slow sideways passing. It's, I suppose that a lot of football folk might want to be seeing Dublin and Kerry contesting the All-Ireland final every year. But for the non-footballers, let's say, if you want us to watch matches, that's the kind of matches you want us to watch, because
exactly
it was frenetic. It was brilliant.
The exhibition of tackling was phenomenal. The tackle, like the defending, like is rarely enjoy watching defending, but by God, I enjoy. And then the break, Dublin's break, when they'd let Kerry get thrown to 45 and tackle, and this break in 4-5, and it was like, it was enjoyable to watch. Like, you know, for a football game, it just two teams going at it, hammer and hungs, and only for Clifford maybe in the second half, few wides that would be like him, but still Dublin were a better team, I thought, you know, on the day.
Yeah, and our own football championship kicks off this weekend. So best of luck to all the 16 teams. I think is it 12 or 16 intermediate as well. So plenty more action to come. And the Junior B, the Davin's got a hard-fought win against Commercials this weekend, Stephen. So fair play.
No, it was a draw. It was a draw.
Jewel Club, yeah, that's
we a legitimate one chalked off, but
there's
can't
always
argue
something.
too much.
There's always something.
Even the Commercials ads were laughing at us.
Yeah.
But that was the right out run around now on a Sunday morning and loosen up a few of the lads. I got picked to play in goal again, so I wasn't too tired this weekend. So it was grand for me.
Will be getting worried now. He has a few years on you. Right, lads, thanks a million. We'll see you again.
All right, man.